There's a story older than empires. It's a story of war, cunning, and a man who spends a decade trying to get home. It's the Odyssey. And Christopher Nolan is bringing it to the big screen. But he isn't doing what every other director would do. He's doing Nolan. This video breaks it down. The myth at the movie's core, Nolan's creative playbook, why Oppenheimer matters, how the production is being staged on IMAX film and real locations, and how Nolan plans to build spectacular effects practically, not just in a computer. Buckle up. Chapter 1. The Ancient Engine, Homer's Odyssey. Think of Homer's Odyssey as a chain of lightning strikes. Short, violent, unforgettable episodes. It isn't one single plot so much as a series of trials. Odysseus leaves Troy and then hits obstacle after obstacle. Cyclopes, sirens, witches, gods. The poem hops between voice and rumor. Sometimes you see the hero's memory. Sometimes you hear other people telling stories about him. Two things matter for any modern adaptation: the fragmented structure. The songbook nature of the poem means the story is episodic. And episodic stories can easily be turned into a fractured cinematic structure. Flashbacks, interleaved timelines, and repeated motifs are all baked into the original. The mythic ambiguity. Homer never nails down whether his monsters are literal or symbolic. Most of the power comes from how people believe in monsters. That ambiguity is drama gold. Is the Cyclops a being? Or is he a consequence of human violence? Is Athena real? Or is she strategy, politics, divine rhetoric turned into law? When you adapt Homer, you don't just adapt events. You adapt an epistemology, how people know what they think they know. That's the filmic challenge and the cinematic opportunity. Chapter 2. The Big Picture. What Nolan wants to do with Myth Nolan is a filmmaker obsessed with structure. He uses time like a sculptor uses light. He's long been attracted to stories that are puzzle boxes, not because he wants to confuse people, but because he wants the form of the story to echo its content. So why would he choose the Odyssey? Because the poem's episodic, temporal nature is the perfect toy for Nolan's structural experiments. Because it lets him juxtapose home and voyage, two different kinds of time. The slow decay of those waiting, and the violent suspension of the traveler. Because Nolan is thirsting for a form where myth and memory can clash. Gods as narrative devices, monsters as psychological realities. When Nolan approaches myth, he rarely treats it as pure fantasy. He tends to dramatize the experience of myth, the way fear and rumor spread, the way history becomes legend, the way a man becomes a story. Expect his Odyssey to ask, how do stories become monsters? How do monsters become stories? That's Nolan's question. And that question is perfect for the Odyssey. Chapter 3. The cast and early buzz. Who's on board and what that signals. Here's the roster that changed the conversation the moment it leaked. Matt Damon as Odysseus, Tom Holland as Telemachus, with a huge ensemble including Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, Robert Pattinson, Lupita Nyong'o, Charlize Theron, John Bernthal, Elliot Page, and more. A big-name ensemble like this is not a vanity parade. It's a design choice. Each recognizable actor brings instant human detail to episodic beats. A short scene can land emotionally because a skilled actor gives it texture. The marketing whisper campaign began with a teaser, a 70-second clip screened in select theaters in summer 2025, showing stormy seas, a ruined wooden horse, Tom Holland's Telemachus asking questions about his missing father, and finally a drift of planks with a battered Odysseus. The teaser leaked and the internet exploded. It worked. Mystery, atmosphere, and the promise of spectacle. Chapter 4. Oppenheimer. Why Nolan's last film cleared the runway. Let's be blunt. Oppenheimer did more than win awards. It reset how studios treat auteur cinema. After a major Oscar run, Nolan's public and financial leverage grew, and that matters. Studios gave him bigger theatrical windows, larger budgets, and the freedom to insist on theatrical first releases. That momentum made a gigantic, classical epic not only possible, but attractive. More important, Oppenheimer reinforced Nolan's brand as a director who can do intimate character work at massive scale. That combination, emotional truth in a blockbuster frame, is the same promise he offers with the Odyssey. If Oppenheimer proved Nolan could humanize an enormous subject, the Odyssey is the logical next step. Human stakes inside mythic scale. And from a business angle, the success of a grown-up, serious blockbuster helped studios re-embrace the idea of event cinema they can sell tickets for. Especially IMAX tickets. Chapter 5. Production scale, film tech, locations, and the IMAX gamble. This is where the production reads like an old-fashioned epic and a modern tech job at once. Reports show Nolan shot the picture using IMAX 70mm film cameras, a newly refined, lighter set of IMAX machines that allowed him to use large format film more broadly on location. Practically, that's huge. IMAX 70mm gives more resolution, more grain, and more tactile image quality than digital sensors. It makes panoramas feel physically present. Shooting on 70mm isn't just a prestige move, it's a sensory promise. Locations were global. Morocco's historic Casbahs, multiple Greek coastal sites, Italian coasts, and remote islands. That variety lets Nolan shoot real geography for each mythic stop. A Cyclops shore, a witch's island, a palace of suitors, all with real sand underfoot, real wind in faces, and real boats in real storms. Budget reports put the cost in the ballpark of $250 million, large even by Nolan standards, which explains why the production invested in IMAX film and massive practical builds. A project this big requires both money and a very specific distribution plan. Premium theatrical windows, emphasized IMAX runs, and a global marketing push. Chapter 6. The cinematographer and composer, the sensorial backbone. If you want to know how a film will feel, look at who's shooting it and who's scoring it. Hoyte van Hoytema, Nolan's frequent collaborator, is back as cinematographer. Hoyt's camera play is about marrying intimacy to scale. He knows how to put an actor in a frame and still let the world loom. That's crucial for the Odyssey. The sea must feel endless, but faces must remain legible. Ludwig Göransson is reported to be composing. Göransson creates scores that feel both primitive and modern, drums and weird sonic textures that make old stories feel immediate. That kind of score will be a glue. It gives the film a heartbeat, a repeated rhythm that connects disparate episodes into an emotional through line. Chapter 7. How Nolan really plans to do effects. Practical first, but not naively anti-VFX. Here's the crucial bit everyone wants to know. Is Nolan going to CGI every monster? The short answer, no. And also not entirely. Nolan is famous for preferring practical effects. He builds rotating corridors, tanks of water, tangible explosions, prosthetics, miniatures, and full physical sets because physicality registers in a viewer S-body in a way CG often doesn't at T. Past Nolan films, Inception, Interstellar, Dunkirk, and Oppenheimer, show a clear pattern. Practical stunts and sets, with VFX used to augment and extend. So how will that look for the Odyssey? Practical ocean work, big water tanks, full rigs for ships, real waves on constructed seascapes. When you see a boat pitch in Nolan's film, it will have weight because someone actually built a moving rig and real water hit those planks. Creature suggestion via in-camera technique. Consider the Cyclops. Rather than a fully digital giant, Nolan can combine prosthetics, forced perspective, suit work, and clever editing to make an enormous presence feel physically affecting, while using digital cleanup to subtly enhance scale or fix a seam. The monster becomes an interplay of silhouette, physical prop, sound design, and the actor's reactions. Sirens and enchantment through music and design. Sirens are at their most dangerous when they sound like temptation. Layered vocals, disorienting mixes, and choreography could create something more terrifying than a floating CG figure. Miniatures and large practical sets. Nolan loves large in-camera effects. Think miniature water tanks for certain storm beats, combined with giant physical set pieces for cliffside and palace scenes. VFX as augmentation, not paint. Don't expect zero VFX. Instead, expect VFX to be used the way a lens is used. to remove rigging, extend horizons, and insert the impossible reflections that practical rigs can't provide. Production reporting confirms a major VFX house is on board, not to replace the physical work, but to polish and augment it. That's the pragmatic Nolan model. Build it real, fix it digitally. Why this hybrid matters: practical effects give you believable collisions, weight, and actor reactions. VFX gives you the impossible. Use both correctly, and the result is visceral, not synthetic. Chapter 8. Post-production VFX reality check. Let's be explicit. Massive VFX houses are attached. DNEG, one of the world's top visual effects shops, is reported as providing VFX for the project. But DNAG's presence doesn't mean the film is a CG spectacle. It means the film will be polished by experts capable of invisible compositing, environment extensions, digital doubles where necessary, and complex composites for large sequences where in-camera tricks alone aren't safe or feasible. Expect DNEG to do what top VFX studios do best: invisible work that preserves the tactile nature of practical effects while allowing the film to present scale and spectacle that are impossible otherwise. If you see a giant sea creature in a Nolan film, it may feel real because the body of the film is largely practical. The VFX are there to sell the parts that can't be built, not to invent the movie from scratch. Chapter 9. Narrative shape, likely structure and tonal ambitions. How will Nolan structure the story? Expect 2 core axes. Ithaca, the home front. Penelope and Telemachus waiting. Political pressure. Suitors. Slow erosion of social order. Intense domestic drama. The sea. The journey. Episodic trials. Mythic encounters. Survival. Each episode can be self-contained, but thematically linked. Nolan will probably splice these axes to ratchet tension. We'll see Telemachus searching, daring, and being tested, while Odysseus's experiences at sea become darker and stranger. That intercutting creates a race. Can Ithaca hold out until the hero returns? That's cinematic, emotional, and very Nolan. Tonally, expect austerity, with bursts of violence and wonder. Nolan likes the coldness of consequence. The warmth then will be human relationships. That's where the drama lives. Chapter 10. Marketing and the early reception. The teaser effect. That short exclusive IMAX teaser did what it was supposed to do: create hunger. Fans dissected every frame. The leak pushed the film into the meme economy, which increases cultural reach, but also raises expectations. A limited IMAX teaser does something useful for Nolan. It makes the theatrical event feel sacred. If you saw the teaser in a theater, you share a moment with other early viewers. That communal memory primes people to seek that communal experience again. It's marketing disguised as ritual. Chapter 11. Risks, failure modes, and how Nolan can survive them. Big movies have big failure modes. Here are the ones that matter. Too clever for its own good. Nolan's puzzle style can alienate viewers if the narrative complexity gets in the way of emotional clarity. Spectacle over soul. If the film becomes one set piece after another without human warmth, critics and audiences will feel empty. Budget pressure forcing compromise. When money is tight, test screenings and studio interventions can shorten, rescore, or sanitize the film. That's the death of many ambitious pieces. How he survives, anchor everything in character. If Odysseus is human, flawed, recognizable, then even the grandest monster stops being a prop and becomes a mirror. Chapter 12. Why it matters, the cultural stakes. The last wave of big ancient epics, Gladiator, Troy, 300, was a generation ago. Big, serious theatrical epics are rarer now. But there's an appetite for them when they're redone with conviction. Nolan's Odyssey could revive that appetite if he balances spectacle and intimacy. And beyond box office, there's craft at stake. If Nolan pulls off large format film, practical spectacle, and mass theatrical events, the result could change how studios evaluate event cinema in the streaming era. So, what do you want from Nolan's Odyssey? A faithful classical retelling, or something wild and Nolan-centric? An experiment in storytelling and time? Drop it in the comments. Hit like if you want a deep breakdown of trailer frames once the trailer drops. Subscribe for a scene-by-scene teardown the moment we get more footage. We're standing on the shore. The ship is visible out there, sails flapping, rigging groaning. The question is not whether Nolan will make a big movie. He will. The question is whether he will make the right big movie. Either way, this is going to be one of the most talked about films of 2026. Lights down, screen up, see you in the theater.